That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, we're going to go through, talk about some of these buy low running backs. We're going to do this a little differently, though, where instead of just talking about some random players that I think are values, we're actually going to structure this video. Please let me know what you think about this in the comment section. But we're going to be talking about the cheaper options at the beginning of the video, and then we'll be talking about those discounted studs that you can potentially trade for near the end. Now, of course, I mean, with those studs, they'll be coming at a much higher price tag, but at the same time, the returns can be a little bit higher at the same time. But regardless, before we get into it, you know exactly what we have to do. We have to give away some Fantasy Flock Network hats. Let me go grab some comments from our last YouTube video. Of course, if you win a Fantasy Flock Network hat, just make sure you send me an email ASAP with your physical address so I can send that out to you. Our first one coming out from Feelin' Froggy says, started Michael Carter. Boy went off. Hope they keep using him. He's nice. Congrats. I'm assuming if you started Michael Carter, probably came away with that W. And our next comment coming out from David. Not going to read the entire thing, but of course, thank you so much for supporting the channel. And every time you leave that comment and leave a like on the video, you get entered in to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. Of course, you could always just get a Fantasy Flock Network hat by deciding to support the show on Patreon, where we're going through and I'm breaking down your fantasy teams every single day. When you join Patreon, you not only get a Fantasy Flock Network hat, but when you join our community, I break down your fantasy football team with an in-depth podcast talking about adjustments that I think we need to be making. And you get our rest of season rankings, should be updated Tuesday, updated every single week. You get our dynasty rankings. You get to get into a dynasty league with us. And at the same time, you get into our fantasy football group chat. So make sure you go through and take advantage of that. Join the Fantasy Flock Network community. And yeah, that should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into this running back list. Like we said, we're going to be starting off with some cheaper options. So let's go over to a running back that you haven't been able to start over the past few weeks. Let's go to Tony Pollard. And now here with Tony Pollard, yeah, I mean, this has been a disappointing option. Remember back in week 2, whenever he came out against the Los Angeles Chargers and he had over 100 rushing yards, everybody was like, oh my God, Tony Pollard is a running back that all of a sudden we can go through and we could just play him weekly as that high-end running back 3, low-end running back 2. Probably a little bit closer in line to being a mid running back 3, where he's definitely just the play that you're making if you are desperate with the injuries, desperate with the bye. And with Tony Pollard, I've always been a fan of Tony Pollard, but I haven't necessarily been a fan of Pollard in that we think that he is someone we can ever start whenever he's playing alongside Ezekiel Elliott. We actually have had a couple of weeks where we are having to tell people to bench Pollard every single week. So I'm not telling you to go through and trade for him because he's some great piece that you can be playing in your flex. It's the hidden upside that you have with Tony Pollard. Something that's very important is how we should be changing the construction of our roster now that we're going into week 9, now that we're about to be going into week 10. And you have a lot of these teams already past their bye weeks. I mean, we already got through the worst bye week this entire season in week 7. And knowing that we got through that, the depth that you may have with another running backs down there on your bench, say another running back that definitely has a higher week-to-week floor, but doesn't have the same level of upside as a Tony Pollard, someone like J.D. McKissic. I mean, if you're comparing J.D. McKissic versus Tony Pollard, maybe you prefer the running back that you know what his role is going to look like in his offense, and he can be productive even with another starting running back in that backfield in J.D. McKissic as we're going through the bye weeks, as we're going through week 7, and we're desperate to have any kind of running back production at all. But once we're shaping up and we're like, okay, well, you know what? We don't have to worry about as many of these bye weeks coming up. We're going to be getting running backs like David Montgomery, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, hopefully back on their team soon. I think that it's probably a lot more important now to be focusing in on that 90th percentile outcome, the best case scenario for some of these running backs, and how we can identify some players as truly league winning options. And with Tony Pollard here, based on what we have seen from this Dallas Cowboys offense, I mean, we just saw Cooper Rush have a fantastic day against the Minnesota Vikings. I don't really think that has anything to do with him. I think it probably has a lot to do with the receiving options, a lot to do with what you actually have with the offensive line in Dallas, and that this is a great situation for an entire offense to thrive. I mean, if something were to occur to Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, I mean, he becomes a top 5, top 10 running back. Let's go back and let's look at the efficiency that he has had so far this season. I mean, Tony Pollard, you're looking at that blow up spot in week 2, 13 carries, 109 rushing yards. Week 5, 11 carries, 60 rushing yards. Week 4, 10 carries, 67 rushing yards. I mean, this is someone that's getting close to 5-6 rushing yards damn near every single week at the minimum. And what's also very impactful with Tony Pollard is we know if Ezekiel Elliott goes down, it will not be a scenario that all of a sudden, oh, damn, we're in a committee. I mean, Tony Pollard, he's not going to be able to be a pass catching running back in this offense. It's the exact opposite of a case. Some may argue, I don't necessarily think I would be one of those people, that Tony Pollard could be a better receiving running back than Ezekiel Elliott based on his elite 15.5% team college target share that he had coming into the NFL. And then you're also looking at the fact that this year alone, you've had games 4 receptions, 4 targets, 29 receiving yards, 3 targets, 31 receiving yards, 4 targets, 28 receiving yards. I mean, clearly this has been a player that has shown receiving game ability. So I'm not sitting here saying we're predicting an Ezekiel Elliott injury. I'm just saying at this time, these guys, throw Alexander Mattison on this list as well. Looking at those premium handcuff running backs that if anything were to occur to the running back in front of them, they become top 5 to 10 options in fantasy. It's probably a good idea to start prioritizing having them on our bench rather than having those depth running backs that we're going to need through the bye weeks, because we're already through a lot of these bye weeks and we're about to be in that playoff stretch where we're just looking for that highest upside possible. I think Tony Pollard is a perfect example of a running back like that. And now let's go over to our next running back, someone that, I mean, I was a little hesitant to believe on as soon as he broke out in Tampa Bay, but no, we're all on Leonard Fournette. Now with Fournette, I understand that yes, this past week he was disappointing. This entire offense was pretty disappointing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One thing that I really want to point out is while, yes, Giovanni Bernard comes out here, he has a decent day. And one reason I was worried about Leonard Fournette coming into the season is if Giovanni Bernard was going to be able to have a receiving down role in Tampa. And yeah, Gio comes out and he gets the receiving touchdown. So a lot of people are going, oh my God, Gio gets double-digit points. What does this mean? It means nothing. I mean, if you're looking in depth under the hood with what we had with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back room, you had 37 snaps for Leonard Fournette compared to only 13 for Giovanni Bernard. Fournette had a total of 5 targets out of the backfield, where Giovanni Bernard only had 1. So clearly we're seeing with Leonard Fournette that he has the exact same role that we have seen previously over the past few weeks, but some people may be reading into this a little bit too much. Some people may be reading into the production that you have from Gio, as well as the snap rate that you had 2 weeks ago against the Chicago Bears, given the fact that if you pull up the snaps in that offense, I mean, all of a sudden you may be telling yourself a story that Leonard Fournette is not the 3-down bell cow running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I want to remind everybody that if you look at how that Buccaneers offense operated through the first 3 quarters in that Chicago Bears game, Leonard Fournette was that 3-down bell cow running back. It's just once you get to the 4th quarter, and I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are leading 35-3. There's no real incentive to keep on trotting Leonard Fournette out there when you can kind of give him a break, throw Keyshawn Vaughn, throw Ronald Jones into the game. It doesn't really matter. Giovanni Bernard coming back, getting the touchdown does not mean too much. I mean, if you are going to be Bruce Arians here, are you going to be plugging in 5'9", 205-pound Giovanni Bernard into your red zone package? Or are you possibly going to have 230-pound, 6-foot-tall Leonard Fournette, I mean, who has proven that he does have that elite touchdown upside before? You're going to be putting Fournette in there. So that one touchdown that you had from Giovanni Bernard, taking away that production from Fournette, who only had 7.5 points against the Saints this week. I mean, we kind of know at this point that, I mean, the New Orleans Saints, they have the number of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was surprised to see that there's only a 4.5-point spread in the favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming into this week. I probably would have taken Tampa minus 4.5 if you would have given me the option, especially if you would have told me that Jameis Winston was going to get injured in this game. But I mean, at the end of the day, clearly I think that Vegas knew something that we didn't, as they always do. But still, Leonard Fournette going forward, I mean, he's going to be on bye this week. Maybe you don't want to trade for him right now. Maybe you wait to trade for him after his bye going into week 10. But then I'll have Washington, the New York Giants, the Colts, the Falcons. Not really worried about any of those matchups. I think Fournette, you're viewing him as that bell cow option in Tampa. Nothing's changed. Go through and buy Leonard Fournette. As we're going to be going back down, we're going to be going down a tier in running back here. Let's pivot over to Josh Jacobs, an option that, we are actually drafting a considerable amount in drafts. I know we haven't talked about Jacobs a lot, but we've had a wild ride with Josh Jacobs, where remember at the beginning of draft season, if you were drafting very early on and you were a diehard fantasy player, as you know I am, back into high stakes drafts around June, July, not even July, mainly May, June, you actually had Josh Jacobs going in the 3rd round, which was a very bad pick because he doesn't have that elite receiving upside in his offense. At least we thought he didn't. So everybody was screaming, Josh Jacobs overrated, including myself, to the point where he starts to fall to the 5th, 6th round in fantasy drafts on Underdog. I'm taking Jacobs every time we can in the 6th round. I'm scooping him up everywhere. And I think based on what we have seen so far this year, Josh Jacobs is a great buy low candidate because of this chest injury, not nearly as serious as what we were worrying it was going to be 2 weeks ago. Right now, reports are saying Jacobs is likely to play in week 9 against the New York Giants. If you're looking at Josh Jacobs, going back to what we were discussing, one of the reasons that you weren't that excited about Jacobs coming into the season was based on the signing of Kenyon Drake and what that meant from Josh Jacobs' role in the receiving game in particular. And with Drake coming in, we were operating under the assumption that this would be the passing down running back for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he would be severely impacting Josh Jacobs' overall ceiling in this backfield. Well, that simply hasn't been the case. If we're going to be looking over the past month with the amount of targets that Josh Jacobs was able to average, he actually averaged over 3 targets a game, pretty much was at 4 targets a game over the past month, which will be a career high from Josh Jacobs. And he's also done this against some pretty tough defenses. We know that he has a ton of touchdown upside. You're looking at a running back that led the NFL in carries per game inside the 20-yard line a season ago. Over the past 3 weeks that he has played, he has scored a touchdown every single game. I know in week 7 against the Philadelphia Eagles, the production doesn't look that great. You only have 6 carries. You only have 3 receptions, 3 targets. Keep in mind, Josh Jacobs left early that game. I think that Jacobs, you actually have to be very excited about him going forward if he is fully healthy. And quick side note with Josh Jacobs, this is a running back that is 23 years old. He is currently 1 month older than Najee Harris. He is extremely young. I think that he has not come close to his ceiling. I think Jacobs can easily be a mid to high end running back too. Let me pull him up over there on Patreon to see where I currently have him in our rest of season rankings. I definitely want to be moving him up with the reports that he will be good to go this week, and this injury is not going to be one that we have to worry about it lingering, because I'm definitely a lot more confident that he is going to be able to just play through that chest injury than what you would have with like a hamstring, worrying that it was maybe going to be popping back up. Yeah, Jacobs, we have at running back 22. I'm probably going to have to be moving Josh Jacobs up to the running back 17 range. Now let's go over to our next running back. Let's go to an option that we said to buy low last week. It looks like you're buying at a lower price this week. So I apologize if you listened to us last week and his value dipped down, but I'm still going to go all in. We're still going and chasing Javonte Williams here. Now with Javonte Williams, this is a running back that does not get the production in Denver this week. It actually goes to Melvin Gordon. I know Melvin Gordon, a player that we are looking to pivot off of. Now, Melvin Gordon does drop 21 fantasy points. And I know a lot of people are going to be naturally assuming that that's, maybe Melvin Gordon getting to 20 touches in this offense. Maybe Melvin Gordon operating as the 3-down player. Not really the case in the slightest. It's more so Melvin Gordon is the running back that got lucky enough to walk away with the touchdowns. We know that based on what we have seen so far this year, it's not like Melvin Gordon is a lock for the usage at the goal line either. So, if we're going to be looking at Melvin Gordon, I want to be kind of ignoring the fact that he got the rushing touchdown. He got the receiving touchdown. We can see Javonte Williams in that same role. I still want to stand by the fact that this team traded up for Javonte Williams, and Williams has trended in the correct direction. And we're looking at the past 5 weeks. Let's look from weeks 4 through 8, and let's filter out this production from what we have had with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon to get a good idea of how these running backs are trending. You actually have Melvin Gordon during this time span as the running back 31, where you have Javonte Williams as the running back 34, which is a lot closer than what they were at the beginning of the season. So I think we are going to get to see Javonte Williams take over as this bell cow running back for Denver before we get to the fantasy football playoffs. Of course, you're not trading for Javonte Williams if you're a 2-6, 3-5 team and we need points right now. Javonte Williams is that trade target for if you're 7-1, if you're 8-0, if you're 6-2, and you go, you know what, Mason, I don't really care about the next 2 to 3 weeks. All I care about is what we have after week 11, 12, 13. And then once we get to the fantasy football playoffs, I think Javonte Williams still has that long-term upside. I just want to be doubling down on Javonte Williams. I want to be on the record with that call. And now our next running back will be definitely an expensive option. Not going to be trying to act like you're getting him cheaply at all, but still, I actually want to be putting some feelers out there. Let's go see what the price tag is with DeAndre Swift. I mean, I know that, yes, the DeAndre Swift owner is going to look at it and go, why the hell would I move DeAndre Swift? He has been a top 10 running back so far this season. I mean, if you're looking at a points per game basis, he's actually the running back 7. This past week, you have, the Philadelphia Eagles dominating, and I repeat, dominating against the Detroit Lions, where they come out here, they actually win this game 44-6. Going into the last quarter, you had the score 38-0. And then with DeAndre Swift, it's really hard to look at any of this production. But what I really want to point out is if I told you that this game was going into the fourth quarter at 38-0, and I told you that you started the starting running back there, would you be excited? What would you be expecting with his fantasy points output? Personally, I'd be like, oh my God, hopefully we got 2 receptions. Hopefully we got 30 rushing yards. Can we get 5-6 points? No, DeAndre Swift does come out. He at least gives you double-digit points yet again. And this kind of goes back to what we were speaking with Swift, and that the role in the receiving game, just the fact that this is a player going out there and getting 5 receptions alone, 5 receptions, 24 receiving yards, going to give him an extremely high floor on a week-to-week basis. I think going into week 9, a lot of people are going to be viewing DeAndre Swift now as a running back 2 based on how bad this offense is going to be in Detroit. I think if we can be taking advantage, knowing that it doesn't matter how bad this offense is, as long as DeAndre Swift is getting those valuable touches, getting the targets out of the backfield, getting the usage in the red zone, we have to go through and play DeAndre Swift everywhere we can, trade for DeAndre Swift everywhere we can. Now, our next running back we're going to be talking about is going to be a very similar mold. Let's talk about another passing down running back. And I did a very bad job of organizing this video. We're going to be talking about a cheap option near the end here. Well, let's go with Chase Edmonds here. And with Chase Edmonds, on Thursday night, this is someone that left for the game a little bit, came right back. So we don't have to be changing what we saw with the snaps that much. And with Chase Edmonds here, I know yet again, it doesn't matter how many weeks in a row I put James Conner on that sell high list, and we look at the fact that Kyler Murray had double-digit rushing touchdowns pretty much all from the goal line in 2020, and that's probably something we should expect from Kyler going forward, as he is going to have that goal line rushing role. It doesn't matter any of that. Apparently, James Conner going to come out here and score a rushing touchdown every single week. But I just want to continue to bring this up, continue to hammer this in so we remember how fantasy points are scored here. Now, James Conner, while this is a running back that so far has had a total of 8 rushing touchdowns, 5 receptions. 8 rushing touchdowns through 8 weeks. Over the past 6 weeks, this is a player that's had all 8 of those touchdowns. He is still a mid-running back 3. He is the running back 29. And if you're comparing this to what we have with Chase Edmonds, Chase Edmonds has actually had more points per game. Even though he's gone extremely unlucky with his touchdown rate so far in this offense. And now, yes, you're going to be expecting that Conner is getting that usage at the goal line. We're never expecting a high touchdown rate for Chase Edmonds. But Edmonds here, 37 targets out of this backfield compared to James Conner having 5. This Chase Edmonds production is extremely stable going forward, and we are seeing the floor here for Chase Edmonds. If anything were to occur to James Conner, if anything were to change with his own role in this offense, where he begins to see some looks in the red zone. I know he did get that 1 rushing touchdown from about 12 yards out, but nonetheless, you're beginning to see the fact that we've had a very large sample here of Chase Edmonds, and his points per game is damn near identical to James Conner, slightly ahead, even though he has no value in the touchdown category yet. And we know touchdowns, they are very hard to predict based on previous performances. We know touchdowns are so volatile that if you're trying to look at the first half of the season and then go, okay, this is what we had in the first half, this is what we have the second half, the touchdown category is the hardest to do that with. So I think a lot of that James Conner production is going to be sliding over to Chase Edmonds, given that he is the running back playing about 70% of the snaps in this backfield. We saw that this past week as well. Now, yes, James Conner comes away with 2 rushing touchdowns, but still, Conner, with those 2 rushing touchdowns, how many fantasy points are you getting? You're getting 14 fantasy points. He's a low end running back too. I mean, definitely Edmonds seeing his floor. So I think if we could go through and try to buy low onto Chase Edmonds, that'd be a fantastic idea. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure you go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so for whatever reason. And of course, you can go get a Fantasy Flock Network hat. You can go get a podcast breaking down your fantasy team. You can go get our rest of season rankings, our dynasty rankings, get in a dynasty league with us, go through and get access to our group chat. Everything can be found on Patreon, which is in the description of the video as well as the comment section. But yeah, thank you again. Hope you have a great day, and I hope I see y'all with the video tomorrow.